I'm really excited today because this starts the beginning of building back the 2JZ motor. Now, if you're not caught up what's current, I took apart the head of the 2JZ and sent that off to the machine shop with all the necessary components from BC to build a fully built head, cammed, ready to go. I now have all the necessary parts to start building it back together, so let's just jump right into it. First things first, we're gonna be putting in ARP head studs. Now, I've never done this before, but it seems very straightforward. Once we put this on the car, put our new gasket on the car, we're gonna be installing the new head. From what it appears, the machine shop did a pretty good job. It looks very, very clean. Everything is like brand new, decked, no oil anywhere, and all the new valve springs and pucks and shimless buckets and all that stuff is tucked away inside, so huge shout out to BC. Now, without farther ado, let's get into these head studs. Something that's interesting to note about doing head studs, you actually put this into the block hand tight. You're not torquing these at all. What you will torque though is once you put the head back on, you're gonna be putting those nuts through the head back on. That is the part that will be torqued, not the actual stud itself. Also, you never wanna forget the fastener assembly lubrication. That's very important because we're dealing with a lot of heat and a lot of stress within these threads once everything is on the car. Now with the studs in the car, we're gonna put the brand new gasket on the block and we're gonna put the head on top of the block. And we're gonna be very, 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 very gentle, not to screw anything up. That head is pretty heavy, so it's gonna be a little bit nerve-wracking here, but this is exciting stuff. I'm really pumped for this. Okay, if you could support it. Okay. I can't lower it because support this for me. Okay. So. That's it, bro! Before we put the nuts back on the head studs, we need to take out the camshafts. And if you guys remember when we were moving it before, you have to move in a certain sequence. So I have the sequence pulled up here on the laptop. Calvin's gonna go ahead and start taking out both of the camshafts. And then once that's out, we're gonna go ahead and torque the head stud nuts appropriately. That is very important.
TJ noticed something, that these washers don't fit through the hole. If we lift the head up, we put the washers in place, we lift the head up, Kevin can finger it into place while TJ and I lift the head.
It sounds a lot more confusing what you said, so we'll go ahead and show you what we mean.
Look.
You kind of just gotta drop it in there so she sits. You need to finger it over the stud and drop it back down.
Once the nuts are in, it's very important to torque these down correct, so be sure to follow the instructions that come with the ARP kit. And you have to make sure that when you torque these, you have to do them in a certain sequence. That's also very important. As we're putting the camshafts in, it's very important to make sure that these are set correctly. Now, huge shout out to Rad Dan. If you are not following Rad Dan and you are a 2J lover, you're literally missing out on like one of the best channels on YouTube. I called him because I wasn't exactly sure and I showed him the positioning of our camshafts and he was like, no, not do it that way. The way I found on the internet was wrong, whatever. Huge shout out to Dan. He kind of saved our butts there. Long story short, these little nubs on the end of the camshafts are almost like a way to like indicate top dead center because our cam gear is at top dead center. So we're gonna set this at top dead center. What was weird to me is like the camshafts don't sit perfectly on the top of the head. That's okay. What we're gonna be doing is as we put these lock collars on the camshafts, we're gonna be walking them slowly and that's slowly gonna push the lobes in line to be top dead center. I'm gonna have to do that very gently, very carefully, but shout out to Dan because he just, you know, saved my life. So as we're walking down those lock collars, it's gonna try and walk the camshafts a little bit and we're actually gonna slip up some of the top dead center and we wanna make sure that we can hold that. A little way to prevent it from walking away is we can lightly slip on these cam gears, these fucking beautiful cam gears, and we can kind of hold them. And I've been dying to see this like on the car, so we got a little preview here. The nub is actually not sitting straight, so Dan was saying, he's like, put the cam gear on and you can kind of use that to lightly, you're a little too tight over here. Use this to hold it in place to make sure it doesn't walk away, like that. So now I have it top dead center. So now Kevin can slightly set that collar in, start from the middle, or there's ways you can follow online, but Dan said, he's like, I start from the middle and go go every other collar and make sure you're putting them down evenly, because there are springs underneath, and if you go too much on one side, you're just gonna bend something and break something. So
you just straight up bend a camshaft in half?
I don't know what the camshaft, but this valves or the springs or something. I don't know.
It's like a Beyblade.
Camshafts are back in the car. They're both set at top dead center, and everything has been torqued to spec. So the next thing we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be putting the valve cover back on, as well as installing all these new gaskets and hardware and little like washers and stuff. I got a big package deal from. But before we do that, luckily we did a really good job at labeling all of our stuff when taking apart all this. We had to put back all the studs on the valve cover and redo that.
For the next step and for the next like 30 minutes, we're all gonna just start putting back studs, bolts, sensors into the engine, and then try to see if we could put the turb ski on there. Right, Teach?
I guess while you start that, I'm gonna go ahead and fit the top of the head with the new gaskets and clean this up quite a bit. Because it's really dirty, I'd like to clean this up, because one of the biggest things that we're gonna be looking for when we crank this over for the first time is to make sure that we don't have any leaks and stuff. And we want to make sure that when we put this back on, it is clean, so that if we do start to get any leaking anywhere, we can identify it with any messes on the side. So I'm gonna get after that while Calvin is trying to put back all the studs and all the studs for the exhaust manifold and the studs for the top of the head. Brake Parts Cleaner does a really good job at like getting off a lot of this sludgy oil. I'm a huge fan of Brake Parts Cleaner, and I like to like lather it. It does a really good job of cleaning up any sort of thick sludgy messes, so I highly recommend it. Before we put the valve cover on and bolt everything up, we're gonna make sure that our top dead center is correct, and we're gonna make sure we put our belt on with our new fluid damper, crank pulley, and all that stuff. We're gonna go ahead and just make sure everything is the way that it is supposed to be. So when we do top dead center, this allows us to kind of see what's actually going on. After about an hour or so, we finally got the cam gears on. We like put them on and then questioned our top dead center, and then redid our top dead center and did research to make sure we were doing top dead center. But I'm gonna show you guys where we are so far, because it's looking pretty good. Our cam gears are set up. We also notch our timing belt. We like to do that just to make sure we can like always identify top dead center, and we still have the screwdriver in from checking all that. All right, so all we have to do is put these remaining bolts back in with the new washers that we have. And actually at that point, our head is 100% complete. We're still missing our coils and our sparks, obviously. And we don't have either manifolds on the side, but that's awesome. That's actually really good progress for today. I put the turbo manifold on just hand tight, and I mounted the turbo on there, and it's not clocked correctly, and we don't have the intake manifold on, and we still have the stock wiring harness in, but we have the motor back together, which was our goal for today. It was kind of hard to film a lot of it because there was a lot of just like things of us trying to remember how to put it all back together. We went ahead and put the pulleys back and the little covers back, and that was pretty much about it. This turbo is actually bigger than the one we're running on the drift car. I feel like looking at it from here, it looks really, really big. I said this kind of in the past, we're gonna be, I think I'm gonna be aiming for like 800. I don't know if we'll keep around 800s or anything like that. Like we'll probably have a boost controller of some sort, but with this built head, we can easily put those numbers down. So I'm pretty stoked. It's funny how we literally did the built head in the street car and didn't do a built head in the race car, but the race car doesn't need anything more than 600. So it's kind of like a wash either way, but I'm super excited on how this came together. It looks really clean and I'm stoked on it. That is all we have time for today. We're gonna be getting a lot more Supra content, and we're getting a lot more Ferrari content in the next couple of days, because at this point we're just waiting on parts from everybody, which always is a good feeling. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out and keep moving forward. And I'm feeling good.